Hello, everyone. This is Marlins Daily on the Fan Arch Network. I am Kurt Semder. Thanks for being here with us once again today. And once again, as it's been the last couple of days, we are coming to you after a Marlins loss, a tough defeat in Houston last night, falling 5-3 to Houston for a season high now, eighth straight loss. As we've talked about time and time again here, this losing streak could not come at a worse time. And the fish just continue to struggle in big spots, and this was yet another example of that in a tough loss to the Astros. There were some good spots in this game. I've seen already a lot being made not that long after the game about the triple play that the team turned in the eighth inning, which was sensational. A great job by the infield there to turn that one right around the bend and get that triple play, the first one this season in baseball, but doesn't change the fact that the team lost. So nice play in a bad game. And yes, Joe Mack hit another home run, and yes, they had chances to rally in the ninth inning. They had the tying run come to the plate more than once, but ultimately just not enough to get the job done here. And that is the last thing that the Marlins need right now. This game was a little closer late than it probably you thought it was going to be, because in my estimation, this game ended in the fifth inning. This game was over in the fifth. The Marlins were down 2-0, and Kyle Stowers comes through with a big double to the gap, cuts the lead in half. It's 2-1. You think that maybe the Marlins are making a bit of a run here. And then, Tyler Phillips can't get through the fifth inning. They got to go to the bullpen. They bring in Zuber. He does a really good job to limit the damage initially, facing Jordan Alvarez, who hit 2 home runs the night earlier against the Marlins, and gets the big strikeout, but the ball gets away from Joe Mack, and Alvarez is able to beat the throw at first base and is safe, extending the inning. And, there's the old baseball adage, you don't give a team more than 3 outs because it's going to come back to bite you. And this was an example of that perfectly, because the very next hitter, Isaac Paredes, blasts a 3-run homer into the box in left field. And that was it. I mean, you could feel the air let out of the Marlins balloon. You could feel the momentum shift. You can feel it kind of be like they were right there, and all of a sudden they go from down 2-1, coming back up to bat, looking to tie the game or go in front, and instead they're down 5-1 now. And that was it. I mean, that was really it from there. Yes, they were able to chip away later on, but they didn't need to be in that position. They put themselves in a bad spot. And that 3-run homer really, really sunk the team. And this is a Marlins team right now that, this ship was sailing along really well not that long ago and seemed to be cruising towards a playoff push. But that ship suddenly has a lot of holes in it, and they are taking on water, and they are sinking fast. And they need to turn this around really quickly. Don't want to get too low, but at a certain point here, you really have to start to be concerned, and 8 straight losses is a good point to be concerned, because they are losing ground in the standings. They are missing opportunities to, pick up ground or, separate themselves from the pack. And as we'll talk about a little bit later on, they now find themselves right in the middle of the pack and looking up at some teams that they may not be able to catch, even with so much baseball still left to be played. But now they've lost the first 2 games of this series. They've lost the first 5 games after the All-Star break. And as I mentioned, 8 in a row now overall, the longest losing streak they've had this season. And Miami finding themselves now just 2 games over 500, which is not where they wanted to end up and not where they want to be here with the trade deadline right around the corner. So we mentioned it. Some good things coming out of the game, as we said. Good defense in a lot of spots. Joe Mack looked great at the plate, hitting yet another home run. Really like to see, like I said, Kyle Stowers come through with a big hit there. He had a bit of a defensive lapse at first base the inning prior, but he made up for it with a big hit. Otto Lopez was back in the lineup, so there were some good things there, but it did not make up for the fact that the team overall just couldn't get the job done. And they haven't been able to get the job done now for more than a week. So the time is now for the Marlins, very simply put. They got to get it done. And I don't want to put this on any one player. I really don't. And because it's not this guy's fault that they're losing like this right now. But it's, you watch this team play day in and day out, and I just don't see it in Jacob Marcy. I just don't see it. Maybe, Marlins fans listening to the show, watching the show, can let me know in the comments section what you see in Jacob Marcy that makes you think he is this team's center fielder. But time and time again, he doesn't get the job done, and the numbers are putrid. I mean, they're just really, really bad for a guy who has more than 300 at-bats right now. I mean, just looking at it, among qualified players, he ranks near the bottom in batting average. He ranks near the bottom in OPS. He has only 65 hits in over 300 at-bats. He has 90 strikeouts, which is a lot for a player here. I mean, he is near the top 50 in the league in strikeouts and only has driven in 25 runs, which isn't great. And his defense is good in center field, but it's not like, oh my God, great defense, gold glove type stuff that we're like, wow, you got to have him in there for his defense. You need him to produce at the plate, and over the course of this season now, 300 at-bats plus, he's just not getting the job done. And I understand why the Marlins went with him this year and thought he was going to get it done because, look, he hit almost 300 last year. Fewer at-bats, sure, but he was very strong for them, gave them a reason to believe he was going to be their everyday center fielder. But there comes a point where you got to pull the plug on this. I mean, isn't it? He's been hitting under 200 now for a long time, including a time during the season when the Marlins were playing well. And, whether it be maybe they don't feel like they have a better option on the roster, maybe they don't want to move Xavier Edwards out of the infield and out to center field. Maybe they don't feel like they've got someone to bring up from the minors. But, I mean, you got to do something. I mean, this is more or less a dead spot in your lineup. And with a team that struggles to score runs sometimes, you can't have that. So, look, I feel like they've given Marcy enough time now to try to get out of it, and they've given him enough chances to, break through this season. And I think it's time for a change. And Clayton McCullough really should start thinking about making a move there in center field, whether that be moving some guys around, picking some guys off your bench, or maybe just give the guy a couple days off. And let him get his head straight, because he's out there almost each and every day, which is admirable in a league, of course, where, we see injuries left and right. But being out there is not enough. You have to produce. And the numbers are what the numbers are. And he's not getting it done. So, I'd love for him to turn it around. I'd love for him to have a big second half. And I would like for him to obviously get back to that point. But he's 100 points below his batting average from last season. And that is not something that's easy to make up, especially when you're this far in and you've had that many at-bats. So that might be an area where the Marlins need to improve and need to look to see if they can make a change, because I've Marcin enough out of this guy. So we'll see what happens moving forward and see what the next step is for this team, because right now he ain't getting it done, and a lot of these guys are not getting it done. And as a result of that, we look at the standings and the way things are breaking out right now. And, the Marlins started the All-Star break in the third wild card spot. They've lost 5 straight since the break, and now find themselves out of that third wild card spot. They are closer to Washington in the standings in the National League East than they are the Braves. And as we mentioned, the ship is starting to take on water. They find themselves no longer looking down at teams, but looking up in the National League wild card. And there's some teams there that I mentioned a while back that you just needed to be better than in order to make the playoffs. Well, some of those teams are starting to pass them in the standings. And they've got San Diego coming in after this series down here to South Florida in what could be a huge series when we talk about, potential tiebreakers and that sort of thing. But San Diego is right there behind them in the standings, and they could pass them if the Marlins don't pick it up and turn it around. Then you got the Phillies after that. So the schedule's not going to get any easier. But, you don't want to make too much of the standings in the middle or late July in a season that still has, more than 2 months to go. But from where Miami was a week ago to where they are now, not how you wanted to see this thing all break down. And right now, if they don't find a way to turn this around quickly, they could find themselves dropping too far down. And as we've mentioned, with the trade deadline coming up, that could change a lot of things for a lot of players on this team and change the course of their future, not just with this team, but, potentially with another team that is contending for a playoff spot. One of those guys is Sandy Alcantara, who we've mentioned time and time again. He's going to take the ball later tonight as the Marlins try to avoid a sweep in Houston, try to avoid a 9th straight loss. Then the Marlins turning to their longtime ace to stop the slide. And in order to get that done, he's going to need to be vintage Sandy. He's going to need to avoid the first inning trouble, and he's going to need to keep Houston from having a big inning. He puts that all together, they should be in good shape. They are facing a pitcher in Peter Lambert who has been very, very good as of late. He's given up less than 2 runs in each of his last 3 starts. So scoring runs against him might be difficult. But if Sandy can pitch well and keep his team in the game, the Marlins have shown in this series they can get a big hit. They can get a home run in this ballpark. We've seen more than one. So there's a chance there for them to at least get out of this with a win. But Sandy needs to stop the bleeding here. You go after this, they head back home, of course, to play San Diego. We still are not sure who's going to start that first game. That would have been Max Meyer's spot, but he's on the injured list. But this is what you keep Sandy around for. This is what you keep a guy with his veteran presence and his experience and his talent. This is why you want him still on this team. You want him to every 5th day go out there and get you a win, give you a chance to win. And if you find yourself in an extended losing streak like they find themselves in now, put it to an end quickly. So hopefully Sandy can do that and get this done and get a big win for this team before they come back home, and then maybe gets a little bit of home cooking when they take on San Diego starting on Friday. But if he doesn't, and this team loses again, and they lose 9 in a row, then I think they're going to have some big conversations in that front office on the day off on Thursday. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, and we'll see how things break down in the final game of this series. I said it last time, I'm going to say it again. Hopefully we are talking about a Marlins win, and if not, we'll have plenty to talk about either way. But thanks for following us here on Marlins Daily. Make sure you like and subscribe, comment as always, and I will see you tomorrow as we chat about the fight and fish. And Fish Faithful, just hang in there. We'll see if they can get it done later tonight.